Please be seated. I've had a special affinity to this gospel ever since I moved home as a newly ordained deacon for 6 months in 1993. I was working at the church of my childhood, a church I had attended since I was 4. And I was searching for an actual full-time position, but it took me a few months to find one. Unlike Jesus' experience in the gospel, no one took offense at me. I was the lovely daughter of the congregation where I had grown up, and so instead I was smothered with the goodwill that can only be directed at a beloved child in the congregation. Unfortunately, I was trying to engage in ministry. I no longer saw myself as a child. I was 25 years old, and I was unable in that place to live into my calling among people who still saw me through the lens of my childhood identity. So I've always felt a very literal connection with the adage of this gospel. A prophet is without honor in his or her hometown. And so I commend all of you who grew up in Cody, Wyoming, and are still living here. I know it is no easy road that you travel. But now I have come to understand that the story is not simply about literally living in or returning to the place where they knew you well. And if we free this gospel from that concrete literalism, I find that the story reflects a quasi-universal human condition. And it is this. It is part of the human condition that we are unable to see beyond the horizon of our expectations and our previous lived experience. In other words, we see what we want to see. We see what we have been conditioned to see. And in doing so, we do not make ourselves available to see the marvelous things that God is up to through us and in the world. I'm guessing that we can all point to an experience of this self-limiting sight and the surprise, the dissonance, the scales falling off our eyes when we let down or perhaps raise up the barrier of our horizon blinders and see beyond them, that we only knew a slice and we mistook it for the whole. Paul had an experience like that himself, and we heard it read about in today's epistle. We all know the story of him falling off the horse on the way to Damascus and being blinded. But that's the story that the Acts of the Apostles tells about Paul. This is the story that Paul repeatedly tells about himself. And the scales really did fall off his eyes when he had an experience of God yanking him out of his previous experience, which was he knew all the facts about Christianity, but had decided and already prejudged it as bad. And so he was persecuting Christians. And after this experience of being drawn up into the third heaven by God, whether in the body or out of the body, he does not know, things completely changed for him. And his blinders, his previous judgment about Christianity, crumbled. You know, political psychologists counsel us in this century that no amount of new facts will change our mind about something which we have previously decided. I am not sure why this is, but all of us, we are pretty well insulated from changing our minds. If you have been married for more than 24 hours, you know of which I speak. Therefore, when we do change our minds, it can feel cataclysmic and undermining of all that we know to be true about ourselves and the world. And so it is no surprise that we do not suffer such changes lightly. But when humans, as we all are unable and unwilling to see beyond the horizon of our experience and our expectation, we have a tendency to diminish, belittle, and disempower that which attempts to widen our horizon, even if that is the presence of the living God, here to bring healing and wholeness to us as individuals, to our families, to our world. They took offense at him, and he was unable to do any deed of power there. When we are not open to the transformative power of God in some very real way, we are participating in shutting down God's power of healing for ourselves and for our world. I see this playing out today as we rev up to another election season in our nation. You know, the possibilities for the future of this country and for us right here and now, they are so immense. But each of us, for our own reasons, mistakes our small slice of political understanding for the whole of God's limitless, unfolding possibilities. And so we shut those possibilities down in order to cling to ourselves. And we shut down those who bear the possibilities to us. But it is lucky for us, as it was lucky for those folks 2,000 years ago, that Jesus continues to invite us to see just beyond it, to see the possibilities for peace and for joy in this present and in the future realm of God. Jesus calls us to see and experience. He calls us to invite others to seeing and experiencing as well. For you are Christ bearers by virtue of your baptism. So take a friend, like Jesus enjoined his disciples. Go out armed only with your walking stick. It's summertime, so you can indeed wear sandals. Wherever you find people, share the good news. Hope, peace, healing. Many will be unable to see beyond their current reality. Some will reject you. Do not be discouraged. Be like Jesus. Offer healing and hope in a new place, in the next relationship that God puts before you. For the more that we plant seeds of this new and powerful reality of love and healing, the more power we have to see the healing and the love that Jesus is offering to each of us. And so in our small way, in this corner of God's world, in this time and this place, the more we plant seeds of liberty and justice for all, the more light we have to see, tend, and harvest a dream of brotherhood and sisterhood from sea to shining.